honor to be here. It's been an honor to receive the World Wood Day Research Grant. Thank you so much for your time today. I'm going to jump right in. Today I present Process Product Place, an investigation of the wood practices behind Ghanaian fantasy coffins. My name is Ellie Richards. I'm an artist from the United States. I make furniture and sculpture. I often cover my furniture and sculpture in paint. My research project is inextricably linked to this man, Eric Ajite-Anong. Some of you may have met him last year at the conference. He was making fantasy coffins. So what is a fantasy coffin? A fantasy coffin is a sculpture that's painted that also functions as a coffin. And we'll get into that in much greater detail. I'm going to give you some background information on me first. So, as I said, I'm from the United States. I'm from Western North Carolina. I live in these green hills. I work at a craft school. Its name is Penland School of Crafts. And here we have long workshops for people to come and do an immersive workshop in a craft media. There are over 16 workshops, studios at this place. This is one of them. I thought you'd be most interested in the wood studio. This is the space that I manage year-round. I facilitate programming that comes in. And so here's our bench room, where handwork and top instructors from our field come and teach these classes. Our bench rooms, the machine room, where everything in this room is plugged into the wall. I want to share with you that I've worked in communal wood shops for most of my working career. And my bench is usually identified as the one that's covered in paint buckets, and it's not necessarily used as a traditional woodworker's bench all of the time. So, I tell you, I paint my work. These are wood objects. You may or may not recognize them depending on what country you're from, but these are classic American snack foods that you'll find in the grocery store. My work lives in the realm of pretend and play. I believe that woodworking can be considered an act of play when one gains all of the safe knowledge to use machines and hand tools. These are some sculptures I've made. I make these on the bandsaw. They're totemic forms that are used as a brainstorming exercise, a free-form brainstorming exercise. So no pre-planning, no sketching. It all happens as though you're drawing from observation. So these those sculptural forms have led to functional forms. These are boxes that open and do not hold anything practical whatsoever. More boxes with lids. And lastly, these sort of sculptural carved geometric forms make their way into more formal furniture forms as well. So I want to switch gears and continents. I want to introduce you to a group of men that work in Teshi, Ghana at the Kanikwe Carpentry Workshop. These are coffin makers that I was fortunate enough to work with this past year. So this is a family business located in Accra, and this is where Eric Anong's family works, and he's pictured in the middle many years ago. I want to give you a little bit of background information on these coffins. So historically, they don't have a lot of history. They actually started in 1950. These coffins came about as an accident. In Ghana, chiefs are often carried on palanquins, which are chairs, sort of sedan chairs. So during processions, chiefs would be carried in ornately carved sedan chairs. And so a chief died unexpectedly, and had to be buried in one of these forms. And so from there, it sort of spawned this industry where one wanted to be buried in a custom coffin. So this is where you get to ask yourself, what would you choose? There's sort of a little guideline to this. The coffins are often decided upon based on your occupation or perhaps aspiration in life. So if you are interested in flying, maybe it's an airplane. If you're a fisherman, a fish.
When for a pencil, Should you do?
A professor. Okay, so these coffins material, they're made out of inexpensive light hardwoods, locally sourced from the northern region of Ghana. So many, many hours away, wood is milled and brought down. The names of these woods are Saiba and Wawa, if you're interested. And I just want to share with you, my research project was to identify the tools and techniques used in making these coffins. This was the family I stayed with for a month. I would go to work during the day, and I sort of took on the role as an apprentice. So each day we would work. First thing I had to do was throw away my boots and buy a pair of flip-flops, because that was the uniform at the shop. And here I am carving wheels for a truck coffin in the works. These are the wheels slathered in a spackle and then sanded smooth. And here are two apprentices applying detailed finish work before coats of paint go on this coffin. Here it is. It's a very dark image. It's happening at night. It's the last minute. They hire an assigned painter to paint on details. So this is a person that's subcontracted to come in and do this work at the very last minute. So then we wake up in the morning and wait for the client to arrive and take this coffin away.
I mean, the descendants of the client.
Yes. Yes. Often posing for pictures, lots of small details added, before and after. So we'll circle back to more coffins in a moment. Accra is a capital of Ghana. It's located in it's a coastal town. That being said, there's a very strong fishing district. So in this photograph, you can see canoes out with nets cast and collecting fish. These canoes were all hand carved on shore, and so the practice of this type of woodworking and the coffin making were very much related, and it was really important for me to see the construction of these, the decoration of these boats, the incisement of personality and individuality on these forms, very much related to the work that we were doing at the workshop. I'm sorry if I'm moving pretty fast, I just feel like I have a lot to get through. Back at home, we're hard at work on a puzzle. So this home experience was very important to the whole process of me understanding these coffins. During this time, we were really able to have, conversations about our similarities, about our differences, culturally, personally. It was a very important part of the whole experience. So speaking of process, here are the hands of the master carpenter drawing on a 45-degree angle. And if we have some woodworkers in the room, we all know how difficult achieving a perfect miter can be. So try making 7 of them on top of each other. So the crudity of sort of the material and the ability to work this material was apparent, but also the precision that could be achieved with those sort of difficulties using only hand tools was incredible to see. So materials were bought as needed, including the coffin nails. So these are coffin nails that are sourced from old boards, hammered straight, and then put directly back into the coffin. So these are coffin nails. Here are 2 of the apprentices relaxing, maybe taking a break. I apologize for my videos. They're experiencing a little bit of jet lag, kind of like me, but they're a little jittery, but we'll get the idea. Here they are hand planing. This is a traditional coffin, so they're hand planing a coopered sort of top, smooth, and then what happens is they're nailing in they're hammering in nails. There's no glue in these coffins, and I'll also say now that it's all hand tools. So here they are doing that work. So they're puncturing in those nails deeper so that then they can continue to carve in around that surface. So there's a ton of work using a hand plane. And then at the end of the day, a very simple sweep is made, and the shavings are put aflame. And then the next day begins. I was really excited when these saws came back from the sharpener. they play a critical role in processing the lumber. So here is one of the strongest men I know now, named Kobe, who is ripping a board with a handsaw and then cross-cutting it with the handsaw. So I think I've hinted at my sort of love of embellishment of a surface. So this is a really interesting tool that is slathered in spackle, so almost like an icing-like material, and then stamped onto the edge of the coffins to kind of cover up maybe an imperfect wood surface. So here it looks like icing on a cake that they'll cover the entire coffin in and then paint in a beautiful, vibrant gold. Now, it's important for me to say that these coffins are so very linked to physical labor. And it is an amazing sort of feat to use your body to make these things that hold a body, and the whole process is so interwoven and worth capturing and remembering. So, it's not all glamorous. A lot of it is sanding. There's a lot of sanding involved. You're adding spackle layers and Bondo and sanding it back to create a smoothness. This is a coffin in the nighttime before heading home. This is the one and only thing that is plugged into the wall, which is an air compressor. This air compressor is used to spray on paint. And so, yeah, when I say everything else is done with hand tools, I mean everything else except for this. And here's that gold I was referring to. And the product itself, those finishing touches, hiring the sign painter, adding these sort of flamboyant corner pieces and rails to hold the coffin, all play out in this really glamorous form in the end. This is a sort of the interior process of the product, so all of the packaging. So they're cutting the coffin open after they've built it to then upholster and add cushioning and fabrics to really dress the interior of the coffin. Those last finishing details and wrapping it up like a Christmas present was always a really joyous occasion. And there it goes, and this is all done in under 2 weeks. This is a gravesite. It was really important for me to experience sort of different stages of funerary rites, and this was one sort of field trip to a cemetery. The coffins that I've been showing you go directly into the ground, so all of the work is done and they go into the ground. They're buried, not to be seen again. I'm going to skip through just these 3 slides right now and skip to this. Just across the street, speaking of products, are imported caskets. So you can imagine my dismay after building up a lot of really big arm muscles from hand planing, seeing these perfect coffins that were imported, and the clash between the two, really, I just had to laugh at it. They have these coffins have this really interesting memory tube that's inserted into them. The signs in Ghana, walking the streets and seeing sort of the advertisements was always fun for me. This became really informative for a future coffin that was made that is a chainsaw. So sorry, it looks kind of like an animal right there, but there's the blade. Maybe a sawyer or a woodworker perhaps had this coffin. So where did our wood come from? There is a local lumber yard, and that's where a lot of the machines were. So here's a man at the table saw. There's the table saw. Covered in dust, a completely sort of hidden workshop, and this was where all of our wood was supplied. A beautiful bandsaw, and again, after doing all of this handwork, to walk into this space where the machines were was, it made me that much appreciate the work we were doing that much more. There's this really interesting market there, Mukala Market, I'm sorry for the upside down video, but this is a place where we would get other supplies like sandpaper, and also we would purchase the hand planes there. So this is
2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. This is a small sample coffin. It's not for anything small. It's actually just to show clients a sculptural form. And yeah, I'm gonna skip ahead, my apologies. I wondered about the drawing process. How were these coffins conceived? And then explain to the apprentices how do they make them. They were drawn on the dirt ground and then built up from there, piece by piece, angle by angle, and constructed three-dimensionally. This, I wonder if you'll be able to guess, is actually a tomato. So it's a tomato in the works. And I wasn't able to stay for the very last bit, but that's how small it gets when constructing, and there's a finished product. My objective was to discover the tools and techniques used to make these coffins, and there are the tools. The techniques have been assimilated because of the day-to-day, almost a month of going to work. They're inside of me now. For the hand plane lovers, for the log lovers, this is a coffin, a wrench coffin, a hammer coffin. That's me in a coffin. I guess I should add people to my greater topic because it really did become about the people I met and the relationships formed. And to show you a little bit back home where I've been able to sort of put some of these techniques to use. This is a form I'm working on back home and trying to figure out how they will play into my own work and research and continued research. Thank you again so much.
Thank you, Ms. Ellie.